A good while ago, I covered the significantly more unhinged Christians in Trench Crusade. So I think high time I cover the more hinged, I guess. That's the opposite of that word. The Principality of New Antioch, a faction that I think in any other game would be the vanilla boring choice. While the aesthetic is still really not my cup of tea, which, hello everybody who has come specifically from discovering my Trench Crusade videos, which have done incredibly well. Hello everybody, it's kind of crazy to see. Something I personally have always done in all of my lore content, I do not shy away from the fact of sharing my opinion, because I personally find it really, really weird to pretend to like something more than I do, or to hide my opinion and then covertly shit on it. I think that's really disingenuous if I'm covering the lore of something. No, I should state my opinion and then do my best to actually tell you all the information so you can really figure it out for yourself. My opinion aside, I can have my own taste. It doesn't get in the way of the actual textual information. I'm saying all of that though, New Antioch has a lot of stuff that I adore. All the factions do in this game, to be honest. It has enough stuff that even though some like the surface level designs don't fully appeal to me, the actual like meat and potatoes of the faction is really, really cool. So I obviously just want to hop right into it and tell you all about it. Thank you to all my channel members for making all these videos possible. So the name New Antioch carries a lot of baggage, don't it? Since it's got the prefix, new, implies there's an old Antioch. Yes, there was. Because this Antioch was formed 3 years after Jerusalem went tits up, really. You know, after it turned into a big hell portal, the thing that I say in the beginning of literally every single Trench Crusade video. Which, fun fact, Antioch is a real place. It's an old ass city that was then taken over and turned into a giant fortress city to wage war against the forces of hell. This a massive strategic location is the primary spot that everyone decided to fortify and then conglomerate to strike back against hell. So because it's like a real spot and they decided to settle on this actual historical place, which means we got a map. We got a map on a real place. There's not currently an official Trench Crusade map yet. They're still cooking. But they settled on the city and started mass military industrialization. However, this is like 1100s, so it's like, you know, that era. So it's not anything too crazy, but they would develop quickly and develop very powerfully, since literally everyone decided we got to pick this city because if we don't, hell is gonna come to us. We would rather all of us in like, I don't know, Britain, Spain, Italy, Africa, like everywhere. We want this to be waged here and not home. A smart decision, I'm not gonna lie, that's really, really smart. So they settled here and built it up to a massive fortress city that can withstand anything hell can throw at it. It's impressive. Though, it can't withstand everything. Not old Antioch, at least. Again, old Antioch. It implies something bad happened. And it did. In the 1500s, hell built a giant weapon, a mysterious weapon. And to quote the book directly, this mysterious weapon utterly destroyed Antioch. Just completely. We don't know exactly what it was, obviously. I picture a giant gun, like in Doom Eternal, that just blasted a hole in Mars. I picture that. Though it could also be something crazier and goofier, because a lot of forces are at work, a lot of supernatural forces. Should be mentioned, like a place or two right above that timeline. It does mention God just stole a city. I don't know, he just picked it up and stole it, I guess. It's a good thing he stole it.
Ow! The Lord giveth and the God taketh away. Goodbye.
It floats off into the sky. How would you feel if that was just a thing that people accepted? That God sometimes just takes stuff.
Your house just vanishes into a big particle effect system like that. And everyone just crowds around and starts clapping.
It's a good thing that it happened.
What exactly did the denizens of Antioch do when their giant city got blasted, utterly destroyed? Well, they built a new one, right on the rubble. It was still steaming, I guess. They just built a new one. based, quite honestly. I highly respect that. And now this one is even more fortified. Because, oh my god, it has withstood 8 sieges from hell. It has anchorites in the walls that are, these things, by the way, Iron Maiden mech suits, just to mention. We gotta have a person in there just dying the whole time to endlessly make sure no one's plotting any bullshit. And they would develop until 1914, like the current year of Trench Crusade, and they would advance endlessly. But this is, like I said, the main headquarters of the fight against hell. This is the main base for all of the Christian nations, all the followers of Christ. So this is like the most important city on Earth. This is like the spot. And because of that, a thing I really, really like, it is mechanically orchestrated, which I will get to later. It's like super diverse in like the amount of people that are here. Like we got people from like Ethiopia, Russia, like Britain, Scotland, like Ireland. It's insane. You will see people speaking like hundreds of different languages just all around, because everyone just comes here to wage war. Everyone has like a personal stake to killing hell, to killing like the heretics, anyone working with demons. Everyone like has a story of how they've been fucked over and their life has been ruined, but like just by them. This is a very like grimdark setting, but an aspect I noticed, and I hope I'm noticing this correctly, please correct me if I am wrong in the comments here, those Trench Crusade fans that scour the Discord a little harder than I can. I try to. Or at least those of you who've been around longer than I have. There's a tithe paid to Duke Constantine the 11th and to New Antioch, like the government, that all of these nations have to pay. This tithe is specifically like food, ammunition, supplies, like engineers, technology, all the things that need to keep the war engine running, but not like soldiers, not people. Except for like engineers and like the, except like the, employees, just not soldiers. It's just that part. Because the soldiers are volunteers. It uses that term very specifically, who then swear themselves to Duke Constantine. Like when they swear, they become a yeoman, which is a real term. First I heard of it. I don't know if I'm just uneducated. I am, but Which, I like Trench Crusade because it is a really, really well done grimdark setting. I like the little elements of humanity in some of the factions. It's the same deal with the Iron Sultanate. I like the little parts of like, yeah, they're not entirely shitty though. They have to do some pretty fucked up things, obviously. Look at them. However, they're not like comically evil like some factions in 40k, But didn't mention engineers, which goes into another point. New Antioch is a massive industrial complex as well. It has just giant factories and engineers coming over. Industry is really like the biggest forefront. Because I mentioned anchorites, which you might notice that is a Trench Pilgrim unit. As should be said, the Trench Pilgrims are, followers of Christ. They are followers of just God, like Christianity, but they're not really sanctioned by the church. New Antioch uses them as like really expendable frontline fodder. And another fun fact, I found this as well in the Discord, because I know that there's a lot of like World War I aesthetic and like especially World War I realism that goes into games like this. There is an aspect when you look at New Antioch where they're using like a lot of like plate mail and like personal armor. And obviously, we didn't go that route. We use things like Kevlar, and I guess just not this. We don't have a plate mail. And a reason for this actually is specifically in one of the main timeline splits. A giant difference is simply metallurgy. They just have a higher advanced metallurgy than we did. They just went down a different tech tree than we did. So this is actually significantly more viable in that world, which I always enjoy in like all history. It's actually the same deal to me in the idea of Fallout. One of the big things in divergent points in the world of Fallout is simply they never invented the computer chip. So they instead went really, really hard in atomic power. And as well, this is something that was noted specifically in the lore primer, so I obviously want to talk about it. New Antioch is where we have church biologists specifically working on things with the Metachrists. Now, hell yeah, we get to talk about the Metachrists. Now, for those of you who don't know, if you're into Trench Crusade, I don't know how you wouldn't. I think it's one of the first things you hear because it's an excellent sales point. The Metachrist is a clone of Jesus Christ that when you imbue the flesh and blood in a ritual sacrament, your body is enhanced in some way. You have stronger physical stats, however, you are deformed. You get something else. But the Metachrist also has some other powers, like Metachrist can't actually like raise the dead. It's a clone of Jesus with some powers. Like, that's just a thing. And I do want to state, because I saw this thrown around occasionally in like delving through Trench Crusade stuff with people saying this. The Metachrist is a clone. Like, it is a clone of Jesus. This is said explicitly in the lore primer for New Antioch. Unless this is like retconned somewhere else, like it's right here. But specifically, in that sacrament, you take the flesh and blood of the Metachrist and you become a communicant, another Trench Pilgrim unit, and also a mercenary unit, but I'll get to that. Now, another aspect, there are multiple Metachrists. There are actually 10, in like a tribunal. Now, an aspect that I theory crafted and with some posts from, one of the creators that I personally believe, and I know that this might be a little loose, little crazy idea. I personally believe that each Metachrist has like a specialty. To kind of make it sound like there's a melee Metachrist and like a gun Metachrist. I don't know, an artillery Metachrist. I don't know, come up with 7 more yourselves. Because that at least is related to the first communicant, like the main one. That's this big bulking behemoth for the Trench Pilgrim. But there's also the communicant and anti-tank communicant, or a mercenary unit that you can take, not aligned with factions, but you can just pop them in your army if you want to. Now, granted, his lore text, because I'm an honest man and I'm evidence-based in all things, his lore text does not support my theory of each one having a specialty. However, will I get rid of my theory? No, I'm gonna stick with it because I think it's funny. The political situation of New Antioch is little interesting because there seems to be like 2 main things kind of going on that are mentioned in the lore primer. First one, a little bit more minor, is the aspect that there's a bit of like a secret police situation happening with the fact that everybody is monitored in some aspect in New Antioch. Now, this isn't as full like Inquisition level, just align it with 40k, I think a lot of us are familiar with. Because this isn't like people busting your door in because people have whispered about you. This is more, if people get a sniff that you might be a little satanic, you're gonna get killed. There are heretical witch burnings and like executions. That happens often. It is a spectacle. People are pretty into that. They're also noted to kind of let people revel, like soldiers, if they're partying and like drinking and maybe doing a little bit of sinning. It seems to be okay. So it doesn't seem to be fully like, people drinking in excess, maybe doing a little bit of fucking. That's okay. However, if you start, I don't know, carving runic symbols into somebody or sacrificing a newborn, that's where they'll go like, hold the phone. Okay, buddy, you took it a step too far. We were having a nice night, and then you stabbed a baby. It doesn't get in crazy amount of detail. I imagine there's a healthy middle ground between insane restrictive secret police and like what I just described. Because it seems to be effective. Obviously, making sure the city does not fall to like insidious heretical plots is pretty important. Granted, with their like position on the map is like, if this city falls, everything's bad. Oh boy, this is literally last line of defense against hell. Oh my god. And then this city is ruled by Duke Constantine XI, like I said. Now, Duke Constantine, he's the main man in charge. And so people will come all over to swear fealty to him. This is still a war game though, so the faction cannot be coherent. People, like individual soldiers, will come to swear fealty, and others, like important like leaders and such, will come, and instead of like swearing fealty to him, will be like, I'm here to kill demons, fuck you, I don't care. Or they'll be like, yeah, sure, but I'm gonna be having my own little plots. They don't actually care. it is a way to make it so in lore it is supported that like the faction can fight itself. That is an important aspect for any war. And with all of this, New Antioch is in a position that is pretty precarious. It is endlessly fighting to ensure that hell does not kill it. Obviously, if this city falls, everyone dies. It is the last line of defense. The one thing that is actually holding it up is the fact that hell is discordant. The actual like leaders of hell do not work together. If they actually banded into one big army, they would squash everyone. However, every single Duke of Hell has their own little plot, their own little schemes. When they do work together, one decides to backstab the other because they're an asshole. And as well, it is a constant game of cat and mouse with their supply lines, those tithes, as I said. Heretics will constantly attack them. New Antioch will constantly go in and fix them, or they'll intercept. It is a constant thing because they need those damn supplies. It's incredibly important. But they stand stalwart. Like I said, they withstood a lot of sieges. 8 whole sieges. They can withstand a lot. Who knows if they'll be able to beat hell? It doesn't seem crazy likely, but by God, it feels like they'll survive. And now those variant warbands, which I don't plan to go like insanely in detailed with them because quite honestly, the reason I like them so much is that they are expressions of that bit I mentioned. The fact that New Antioch is just so dang multicultural. Each one of these is just from a different area that has come over to this city to fight against hell. I really, really like how it's been executed. It's really effective. However, there are fucking 5 of them. I will get through this. All of them are very cool. Some are a little more simplistic than the others, but I do think all of them are really interesting. First up, do you wish New Antioch was a bit more Catholic? Because there is the Papal States Interventionist Force, because this one has you say, the Duke? Nah, I serve the Pope. Fuck the Duke. Literally just that. You are part of the Catholic Church, and in fact, you have like Swiss Guard instead of a lot of normal forces, and how it works mechanically is that you have a smaller fighting force, but they're just more elite because Swiss Guard. There's also Irish rep with the Fire Rangers, because there's all these dang heretics on boats. So what do we send? Irish berserkers. There is a bloodline of Irish berserkers, the Fianna, the hunter warriors, which by the way, a real historical thing, who, this is like a legitimate berserker bloodline that weirdly mixes really well with the Meta-Christ communion. So you fill them up with that, slap them on a boat, and send them to go kill some heretics. Now, when they get this communion, they get sent into a better berserker state, and they literally are able to shrug off bullets. Oh my god, that's so sick, gotta say. Then we transition to something incredibly straightforward, Russian shock troopers. I definitely said that in one take. You can tell. There's not a lot to go into that. It is rapid infantry, infiltration, light armored. It's pretty straightforward. Like, it's not even that much text. But like, that is cool though. I'm not gonna lie. It just isn't that much to go with. It's just these last 2 that kind of overshadow it because they're so deep. Because we had Irish, but we have Scottish as well. Now, the Scottish get involved because these damn heretics keep raiding their lands in submarines. So the Scots decided to load up. All these brave men and women decided, you know what? Fuck damn Satanists. And they got on their boats and went down to New Antioch and decided, we're gonna come back with a lot of dead heretics and even more loot. But the priority is the dead heretics. That's more what they care about, but if they get money on the way and can send it home, that's a plus. What do? Take a wild guess what they like. They are melee focused. It is literally Scottish Claymore bullshit. Look at this. Look at the rules. Full on, like, that's the actual, like, rule set. Which is fun. I'm not gonna lie, that's just fun. And then, if you watched my Heretic Legion video, you might remember Mammon and his dripped out Heretic Legion, his greedy boys. Now, there's a counter faction, the Ethiopian faction, the Expeditionary Force of Abyssinia. They claim to be direct descendants of King Solomon himself, and they swore they want to kill Mammon, kill all of his followers, steal all of his shit, and give it right back to Duke Constantine, which is incredibly based. I gotta say, that is so sick. They are literally a counter warband. Like, oh my god. So yeah, like that is the aspect I really enjoy about their lore, is it's expressed mechanically. And there's a thing about me, if for some reason any of you actually know some of the tabletop stuff I cover, I'm a big fan of lore is actually expressed mechanically. And so to see that transfer, that's my shit. This is what I'm talking about. Aesthetically, a lot of the new Antioch stuff, not fully for me. When I get into the units in just a second here, you'll see that. But actually see it expressed in the rule set, that's what I care about. This is the part I really enjoy about them. Which, yeah, the actual units. The part I always end every video on. Yeah, like, the units are just soldiers. The standard unit is a yeoman. We have large armored units, combat engineers, shock troopers. As you can see, the plate thing I was talking about, very Crusader vibe. A lot of the sculpts are genuinely really, really good. Do not get me wrong. What you see on the tin is kind of what you're getting of just a soldier. I'm not trying to, I guess, downplay what they are and how cool they are. I'm just not too much to break into. The one that is, though, that I think is probably the most interesting and my favorite new Antioch model is the Sniper Priest. The Sniper Priest are a bunch of snipers who, you know, religiously blind themselves because they're quite literally all about letting Jesus take the wheel. They're snipers who let God guide their sights, and then they dome a heretic from just really far away. So yeah, that is New Antioch. And there are 2 factions remaining that I will get to eventually, at some point. I have some other videos and other things that I will make. But yeah, if you want to see more just lore content, you should sub and do all the YouTube stuff. See ya.